Friends, thank you for watching my channel. I just want to remind you, if you need wallpaper, go to www.wallpaperboulevard.com. Tell them Spencer sent you. In fact, if you use my hashtag, Spencer Colgan is wallpaper, they'll be sure to give you a 10% off at your checkout. No matter how much you order, they have a wide selection of wallpaper. Check it out. Tell them I said hello. Random match wallpaper. This can be a beautiful addition to your bedroom, dining room, ceiling, wherever. These are commonly used in commercial areas because of their durability and the design's ability to match with furniture of all types. But let's back up. We're 20 inches away from the wall covering. As you back up, you may begin to notice something peculiar to random match wallpaper called shading or paneling. Depending upon the light and the angle at which the light hits the wallpaper, this phenomenon may be magnified according to the amount of light, the time of the day, the position of the wall covering, and its distance from the light source. This all contributes to the phenomenon known as paneling or shading. And as I step back, the issue is made more manifest, which you can see right here. Now, why might this happen? Assuming that the manufacturer has colored the material universally and correctly, assuming that the color is all proportioned evenly, the way to reduce this problem is to make sure that your lot number and die number are all the same on all of the sheets that you're using. Because you can rest assured that there will be a color differential if you use different numbers. Now let's say you ran out of wallpaper and you needed to use a different roll from a different batch. Well, here's what you would do. You would use that wallpaper on a different wall. Surely you're not going to see the differential from one wall to the next. You see all the shadows over the wallpaper? If you use a different batch, let it be on a different wall. So what do? Another reason for paneling, if you look close, you'll see that it's very textured, okay? In fact, so when you have a roll like this, which side, the outer or the inner, do you think will be more compressed? Which part of this roll is allowed more ability to expand? The outside part or that inner part? Well, have your fingers ever gotten caught in tape? You wrap tape around your fingers, or There's a toy, a novelty known as Chinese handcuffs. You put both fingers in them and they get stuck, right? The inner part of this wallpaper is more compressed with all the winding and the weight placed on the center. Consequently, this texture that you see here on the outer roll is slightly different than the texture on the inner. If this is stored for 6 months like this, why does the roll take on an egg shape? Because of compression. And not only is the compression manifested in a visible difference in the change of shape, but imperceptible to the eye is the texture on these sheets in here. So much so that the angles at which these little pixels of texture are either straight or bent. Therefore, if you start here, this texture was stored in the roll and was allowed more freedom. Did you ever put down sod in front of your house? After a few days, what happens? The grass comes up, starts straightening up. But at first, it's all flat, right? The air, the sun, watering it, it makes it vibrant, doesn't it? This first sheet, this texture, was protected from compression. The second sheet, the texture was less protected from compression. But the last sheet, coming from the center, was compressed more tightly. And consequently, the angle at which these little pixels of texture were compressed are changed slightly. And so if you looked on a microscope really close, you would see a differential in the angles at which these pixels of texture are presenting themselves. If these, because of compression, are down or up, but all the rest of them are straight up, like the grass that you plant, when it's nice and straight up, if there's a difference caused by compression, you will get something called shading. Piece number 3, piece number 2, and piece number 1. Do you see how these are similar? And what happens on the sheet that was compressed the most? Can we not all see that sheet number 3, the last piece of the roll, is manifesting what appears to be a difference in color? We can all see it, right? I suggest to you that because of the compression rate at which this piece was stored and the compression rate at which these two pieces were stored were so different that it's manifesting itself in what appears to be a difference in color. But let me prove to you that it's not a difference in color. Keep your eye on this panel. Let's change the angle of our visual inspection. Do you see how the darkness now goes from dark to light? But let's change the angle at which we're looking at that panel again. All of a sudden it appears darker. Therefore, if it were a color differential, a true color differential, the color would be constant, no matter what angle you looked at it. But because you're changing the angle at which the light is hitting the wall covering as you look at it, what appears to be the color changes, when in fact it's not the color that's changing, it's the angle of the light hitting your vinyl, making it look like there's a color difference. There's no color difference. Did you know that snow is not really white? I went to a museum in Chicago, Illinois, and I examined snowflakes. Beautiful museum in Chicago. And it was there that I learned that snow, the whiteness in the snow, is simply a reflection of the light in the sky. And that snow is really not white. It's actually clear. I was baffled. And so, in conclusion, you have to be able to explain to your customer that vinyl gets compressed. And because it gets compressed, the angle at which it presents itself along the wall differs because of the place from which each sheet was taken on the roll. Consequently, since the angle changes caused by the compression of the vinyl, the color seems to change, when in fact it's simply a manifestation of the rate of compression throughout the roll of the wallpaper. I hope this explains why we reverse every other sheet. We reverse the sheets simply to join the right sides of the next sheet from the sheet we cut it off of in order to make them reunite. When you sever them, they're separated. But when you reverse them, you join the sides again that were joined during manufacturing. So that if in fact it's a color variation, the sides remain together and reduces the color variation, if in fact it's a color variation. But in this case, I can tell you the truth that this is an angular variation. And folks, the only thing you can do about this is to have a glass of wine after you install it and appreciate the natural beauty that the wall covering gives to you without worrying about the natural inclination of vinyl behaving like vinyl. Don't go crazy over it. It's nature. There's nothing you can do about it but change your wallpaper. Let me explain it better by drawing it out. I think this would help. So we have a roll of wallpaper. Make believe it's not cut yet. This is the top of our wallpaper. We're opening it up. We're going to install it on the wall. This is the left side. or the A side. This is the right side, or the B side. I get to the bottom of my trim and I cut my wallpaper. Now I have a separation of the wallpaper. Try to see if there's a color difference between the A side and the B. Well, guess what? There may be. There may be. And that's why paper hangers, or as they call them in the UK, stickers. I find that interesting. Paper hangers in England particularly are called stickers. I like that. When this color is applied to this wall covering during manufacturing, isn't it possible that the rate at which the color is applied may be different from this side to that side? Might be. Very slight. You'd never see it until you make the mistake of doing this. After cutting it, you hang the next sheet like this. Now you have the A side color competing against the B side color. And if there's a real color difference and you messed up by doing this, you might see a color difference. And that is why we join the paper back to when it was manufactured. After cutting it, we want to keep the A side and the B side together after we hang the next sheet. And in order to do that, we reverse it. So that the A side colors and the B side colors are joined during installation. And so this side of the roll was colored at the same time and at the same rate. But the other side, 20 inches away, may manifest a differential in color or shade simply because the real estate here and the real estate all the way over here were born at a different stage during the manufacturing process. Keep your B's with B's and your A's with A's, so that the next sheet, the A side of the third sheet, will be here. And that is why every other sheet is reversed.